So I'll quickly introduce myself and then ask Audrey and Jérémy to introduce themselves as well. I'm Andrew Bolis. I'm a former CMO. Currently, I'm a marketing and AI consultant. I help companies leverage AI tools, optimize their marketing, and grow their revenue. I'm based in the US, out of Chicago, and I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Audrey, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi guys, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Audrey and I'm from the sunny island of Singapore actually. So it's nighttime for me right now. So what I do is I'm the founder of Close with Copy. I run a hybrid human AI copywriting consultancy. So lots of the stuff I'll be sharing today is stuff that we're actually using now day to day and super actionable tips and tricks. I can't wait to share those tips with you guys.
Thank you, Audrey. And
And
Jérémy, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
yeah, thank you, Andrew, thank you, Audrey, thank you everyone to joining us. So as you can hear, I'm French. I'm based in Paris right now. From my experience, I was a head of sales at a software company for the last 3 years, and I started to be a full-time content creator a few months ago. It was in September, and I just started to make some consultancy in sales to share my experience and AI tips with you guys.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Jérémy. And with that, we'll dive into our event's main topic, AI-powered business growth, copywriting, marketing, and selling. Audrey will cover copywriting. I'll then cover marketing, and Jérémy will cover sales and selling. If you have comments and questions, note them down. There is a Q&A portion at the end. Audrey, let's dive into copywriting. What is copywriting and why is it important?
Yeah, so super cool. There are different forms of copywriting, right? There is like brand copywriting, sales copywriting, and then there is conversion copywriting. I think what I'm most passionate about and what I'm going to speak about today is conversion copywriting. And that's actually maybe the art of persuasion in words, right? And I believe that copywriting is more like an art and science. So it's a dance. It's a dance between both, and you're using both art and science, emotional and logical triggers to create high conversion landing pages, ads, social posts, and even LinkedIn content. So if you can see like a lot of top performing posts, they actually have really good elements of copywriting, like a strong hook, talking about features instead of benefits, and having a really strong CTA, which I'm sure Andrew and Jérémy are also familiar with. Yeah, and I think copywriting, right, is basically the difference between having a good product and one that is able to sell really well. A lot of the startups and founders that I work with, they usually face one key challenge, right? Is that they have an amazing product and they have lots to share, but at the same time, you have to figure out two other things, right? What is your audience looking for and what your competitors are saying? So conversion copywriting is being able to form this beautiful line between what you have to sell, what your audience is looking for, and what your competitors are saying and how you're different from them. So with this line, it becomes your key value proposition. And when everything is aligned to that key value prop, all your marketing campaigns and materials will all add up to this one key idea, which makes your narrative a lot more persuasive. Yeah, good copywriting really resonates with your audience, and your goal is to find key audience insights. I've always been saying this since day one, right? Any good ad that converts always has a key audience insight. If you see an ad and it basically pulls at your heartstrings, it makes you feel a certain way, or it taps on the logical part of your brain that says, I need to purchase this now, that means it's working, and that means it's actually relating to a deeper desire. And I can give you guys an example. So for example, I work with a really cool startup in Singapore called Bunker. So they're actually a general ledger intelligence tool. Now, most of you might not know what on earth that is, right? As a copywriter, your goal is to figure out how do you communicate this amazing tool to other founders and other CFOs, right? I have to figure out what Bunker actually does for my audience and find the aha moment for that CFO. So for a CFO, what they're looking for is visibility of their numbers, right? So Bunker gives them fast and deep visibility of their books so that they can make decisions in minutes instead of weeks. And you can see here that I'm just taking a tool from a SaaS product to something that actually drives value for the audience and helps them to quickly recognize that. And this is just like one way of turning a product that is really cool into a product that people want to buy. And that's the art of copywriting, being able to bridge the gap between what you have to offer and what your audience is actually looking for. Coming back to copy, right? The whole goal is to figure out how do you sell, how do you persuade, and it plays a lot on the audience psychology, right? If you guys haven't already read Robert's Psychology of Influence book, it's one of the best books out there. He talks about the different principles of influence. And two of the ones that I always use are scarcity and urgency. So back to what I said about LinkedIn posts, right? LinkedIn posts is an example of good copywriting itself. If you see viral posts, a lot of them leverage these two things, scarcity and urgency. For example, we are only giving it away to the top 100 people within 24 hours, or you need to do it now, otherwise time's up. What we're doing for this offer that Andrew just shared. So you can see we're actually using lots of these principles in marketing in different aspects of communications, and that actually helps us to drive action.
Yeah, Robert Cialdini's book is just the best one, I think, and it changed really my mind when I read it the first time.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite books as well. He also has another book called Pre-Suasion, like pre-suasion, and that one is also really good. So I think for marketers and sellers, that's highly recommended.
I'm
Oh,
taking
that's super
notes.
cool, man. Yeah, I'm also taking notes. Precision. I gotta check that out. Super cool.
Audrey, what should you do before using AI for copywriting?
So this is the part that I think a lot of people here are very interested to learn about, right? You're thinking that either A, you can use a copywriter's work, or B, there are tools out there that can get the job done. The truth is, there are tools out there that can help you to get work done faster, but the human element is key. So I always say that content without strategy is pointless, and AI content without strategy is extremely ineffective, because once your audience is able to tell that this is AI generated content without much thought, immediately the value of that piece goes down, and then it is unable to convert. Which is why before using AI, you need to have a really strong foundation and strong copywriting fundamentals. And that is the difference between good copy and great copy. For example, if I were to use ChatGPT to come up with 50 different headline options for my brand versus someone who might not have that copywriting experience, who is also using ChatGPT to come up with 50 different headlines, my question is, who is going to be able to tell which headline converts? And that actually comes down to a lot of your own experience, testing, experimenting, and actually writing ads. So I would say that for aspiring copywriters out there, it is very tempting to jump into ChatGPT immediately. And of course, I love the tool. But the key part is always to have your foundations built right. So you need to be able to tell what is good copy, how do you find audience insights, and then how do you link them both together before using AI to accelerate the process.
Yeah, can't agree more. You have to understand what you're doing before doing any AI with it.
Yeah, and that's probably the same thing in sales, Jeremy.
Absolutely.
And Audrey, you bring up a great point. I think there's this assumption that ChatGPT or AI tools can make for like a lack of foundational knowledge in an area. So if you have someone who doesn't know copywriting, some people think they're just gonna copy and paste a prompt in, get great copywriting output and use it, and now their product will sell. The problem there is that if you don't know what great copywriting even looks like, or if you haven't studied it yourself, you won't even be able to judge the quality of the output that you get from ChatGPT or an AI tool, and you might actually end up with bad copy that ends up harming your product. So that's, I think, a great point about understanding the foundations.
Definitely. I think one thing that you might want to consider before even using AI tools is you need to first know what is great copy in your specific industry. So that also means like doing some research to see what is already out there. So you know who are the top performers, as well as how you can be different from the top performers in order to make a mark. For example, if everybody is saying A, can you say B, right? So you need to have all these things in mindset, a game, right? And you have to figure out how do you move your chess pieces in order to win while everybody else is moving theirs.
Yeah, I really like that. Audrey, what are the steps to writing good copy?
Yeah, so I think there are three key steps, right? For myself, the way I do it is number one, figure out audience insights. What are your pains? pleasures, desires, what do you want, right? Then with the audience insights, you can craft different messaging angles based on it. And finally, only then you can craft the copy. So for each audience insight, you will have one messaging angle. And for every one messaging angle, for example, you can have 10 different copy options. So I'm not jumping from A to C, right? I'm going A, B, and C because that allows me to test things in a very systematic manner. And here is the point where you can think, okay, can I bring AI into the picture to help me with these 3 steps, right? So you can get it to help you to do some research for audience insights. You can get it to generate different messaging angles at scale, and you can ask ChatGPT or any other tool to give you different copy options. But the goal is you need to have that clarity of what are the steps to achieve and write a top performing post even before you jump into it. So I'm not asking ChatGPT to create, for example, a landing page for me. I'm not asking it, hey, write a landing page for me. I'm telling it how it can create a top performing landing page using a 5-step process that taps into things like my audience insights, my brand strategy, and the positioning. So the goal is really to bring that human part, right, with the AI synergy, and that's when you really get quality output at scale.
Love it.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point you bring up, Audrey, is you cannot leave a lot of the decision making sometimes to ChatGPT because the way large language models work is if scanned all landing pages and all copy out there, and as you probably know, a lot of copy out there is not that good. A lot of writing is not that good. So if you don't give it some structure, some best practices, sometimes you will end up with bad output or copy that's not really that usable.
Definitely. So just be strategic when you're using AI. Combine both your human insight and intelligence with the AI execution for optimal results.
Audrey, how does AI help with copywriting?
Yeah, so here I'm going to share some hot tips with you guys, and you guys might want to take notes because I'm using these tips every single day. So the first things first is whenever you have like audience insights, right, you need to figure out where you're going to get them from. So there are things like talking to your target audience or getting ChatGPT to pretend to be a certain persona for you, right? Ideally, you can talk to your target audience. You find 5 people, talk to them, get their transcripts. And what you can do to streamline the process is to upload the transcripts to GPT and then get GPT to analyze the transcript for you and pull out key audience insights that are similar across all 4 transcripts. So that is like one swift and efficient way of analyzing large chunks of interviews that could be really handy in developing your ads, your landing pages, or your other marketing content. And then,
This is the first one, and it's already super powerful.
yeah, I think you will like it, Jeremy, especially for sales stuff. So
Yeah.
I do the transcription, right? Then I get the insights. Then I create the sales email sequence. Then it makes sense for the specific persona. I think that is always the fun part. Yeah.
Awesome.
And the second thing is then, okay, if you don't have the audience transcripts, what else can you do? You can actually look at reviews on like Trustpilot or like G2, get ChatGPT to analyze and pull both the top and bottom reviews, because that's how you win, and that's how you can position yourself against your competitors. So being able to do that is key as well. This is like market information gathering. You're understanding your audience at scale, even if you're not able to talk directly with them, right? So that's 2. Tip 3 is actually by Celeste. Celeste is another amazing creator on LinkedIn. You guys should check her content out. We worked together on a LinkedIn carousel before, and she shared with me this tool called Harpa, HARPA. What you can do is use this Chrome extension plugin, right? And then you can go to a platform like Quora and you can add a search term. For example, I'm searching copywriting, right? Then Harpa is able to directly engage with the page that you are looking at to pull out the top, for example, 30 questions that is on Quora, right? So now you have the top 30 questions about copywriting, and then you can create content based on those as well. So it's a very smart way of quickly finding points of inspiration for you to create copy that converts.
That's even better than the web browsing feature from ChatGPT.
Yeah, I found that too. I think the ChatGPT web browsing feature is okay. It can be better. So
Yes, we agree
I
on that.
would suggest using other tools for now. Yeah, one day it's gonna get there. Yeah, I think the final two like tips that I have would be number 4, right? You can actually ask ChatGPT to analyze stuff for you and ask it to point out what is working or what is not. For example, you could ask it to analyze a full landing page and ask, why is it working? Can you break it down into individual components, right? So what I'm doing is, if you don't have a copywriting background, you are asking ChatGPT to guide you to figure out what makes a landing page convert. And then you understand the method behind the madness, then you recreate it. So I'm not asking it to recreate it immediately, right? I want to understand why something is working or not. So using ChatGPT as that idea springboard is super handy. I found that sometimes when I create my own landing pages, I'll ask it as well, am I missing anything? What can I improve? And then sometimes it gives me interesting tips that I sometimes weave in to make it even stronger. So that having that idea springboard is really important and almost like a sparring partner when you're creating content. That is something that I love using ChatGPT for as well. And I think the final thing that I have here is being able to develop copy options in a different tone of voice and style of writing. So you can ask ChatGPT to, hey, I want you to write in a confident and professional tone of voice. Then you can play around with it and say, can you write in a warm and friendly tone of voice, right? So if you are a new brand, you're trying to figure out your brand voice, this is a super handy way to find your brand identity and to give your brand that voice, because it's almost like every brand has a personality or character, right? You need to paint that picture of that character so that you can create that brand image and brand persona. So these are 5 ways that you can use GPT for writing in a really interesting way.
And Audrey, I really like that point about your brand persona and infusing that in, because a lot of the criticism that people have about ChatGPT's copy or writing is sometimes it sounds robotic, not very human. And I think by infusing in your brand style, tone, persona, then you end up with copy that is more human sounding and more engaging.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's all about being able to just like taking a step back, thinking of ChatGPT like a Lego set, and then thinking of it. You have different components. How do you combine them together to form something even better? That's basically what I really love about it. And at the end of the day, it's the human AI synergy that has saved me and my clients almost like 70% of the time it takes to create content. And we are generating content at scale and running so much faster than before with the same quality. So it is possible to find that human AI synergy, and it is possible to get quality results at scale.
You convinced me.
Yeah, and I think like I mentioned so much about copywriting, right? But I think the next really interesting important part of it will be to talk like about how the copywriting translate into marketing, right? And here's where, Andrew, you are the expert. So why do you think marketing campaigns are important, Andrew?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, campaign planning, execution, and analysis are at the heart of marketing. I think it's also what a lot of people know marketing to be is that you have a message, you're just going to push it out push it out there to everyone across multiple channels. So after you've taken the time to understand your audience, you figured out your messaging and you wrote your copy, now it's time to run a campaign to amplify your message across multiple channels, to reach and engage your target audience, and to generate awareness and leads. And ChatGPT can really help you with campaign planning and execution.
I think that what I realized as well is when you give ChatGPT a framework to think about campaign planning, that actually helps a lot.
Yeah, that's a great point, Audrey. And it's also so I've been a campaign manager myself in my career, and then at some point too, I had a campaigns team, so I'm very familiar with planning campaigns. But for someone too who just knows individual channels, maybe they know how to run ads on one channel, they know LinkedIn or another organic channel, but they don't know how to bring it all together to come up with a campaign plan. ChatGPT can really help you with that.
Definitely. And how would you like get ChatGPT to give you really relevant and specific responses.
Yeah, so that's key to getting it's key to getting good output from ChatGPT. Is keep in mind that ChatGPT doesn't really know you, doesn't know your business, doesn't know much about your product. So to start, it always helps to give ChatGPT more context about your business. And the way to do this is you just start with a prompt when you have a new chat and you say, here's more context about my business. And then you start giving it these items. You say, my product is, and you describe your product and helps. And then you say your value prop. You say, my target audience is, and then you give it your audience description. You say, my competitors are, and you describe or name some of your competitors. And then you say, my category is, and you describe your category or industry. And then at the end of this, you can have a message that says, confirm you understand this and ask me any questions you have. And this sometimes will result in ChatGPT asking you a couple more questions, like maybe it'll ask, what geo or region are you targeting? Things like that to get more information. Again, by feeding it all this information and answering those questions before you then ask it to plan a campaign for you, you'll actually get much better results. And a lot of these instructions, by the way, where you're giving it context about your business, you can just save that in a doc somewhere and just repeat it each time that you're going to use ChatGPT for something, because then you'll get much better results.
Yeah, I think this is crucial when you want to use ChatGPT. I think most of the people who had poor results with ChatGPT just forget about this crucial step. And asking the model to ask you questions to help it be more precise is a game changer.
I 100% agree. I also use this framework in copywriting. So I ask it two questions, right? I ask, do you have any questions for me? And then second question is, do you understand my instructions? Let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I make sure I ask it two questions before I proceed. It helps a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Andrew, you specifically use ChatGPT for, let's say, campaign planning?
Yeah, so now that you've given ChatGPT context about your business, you're going to now create a campaign plan using ChatGPT. This is the prompt I use. And if anybody wants these prompts, by the way, just DM me after the event and I'll send them to you. It says, act as a marketing campaign manager, outlined a detailed 4-week campaign plan to help me generate leads for my product, list the key milestones and deadlines I should aim for in the next month to ensure my campaign is successful. So that's the prompt I use, and usually from that I get a pretty good campaign plan from ChatGPT.
Super cool. And let's say now you have a campaign, right? But you need to find the right marketing channels. I know that's important as well. How would you then do that?
Yeah, so now that you have the plan, the sort of following prompt that I enter in next is recommend the top 3 marketing channels that are most effective for driving high quality traffic and generating leads for my product. Analyze the cost effectiveness of each channel and recommend the right mix. My marketing budget is, maybe it's $2,000 or $5,000. I state that. And that again helps ChatGPT to take in your budget. It knows your product, your business, your audience, and the goal of this campaign. And now it's going to recommend the right channel mix for you to use in your campaign.
That's super powerful. I didn't think about the feeding the model with your budget and it understand it and give you the right decision to make.
I have a curious question here, Andrew. How accurate do you think it is when it comes to budget allocation?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it comes back to your point about if you don't know the fundamentals of, let's say, certain channels and things like that, then you're right. You can't even judge the output of ChatGPT. So I think one of the things you can do is after you get an answer from ChatGPT, is just look up some industry benchmarks. And you can just do that by Googling quickly. For example, if ChatGPT is recommending that you run LinkedIn ads, you can just Google what's the CPM or cost per action or CPA or cost per lead for LinkedIn ads in B2B, if you are in B2B or in B2B SaaS tech, and just do some checking up on. I'm familiar with a lot of the benchmarks just because I used to run these campaigns, and but that's a great question, and that's, I think, where having a foundational understanding of this stuff helps, so that then you could judge the accuracy of the output that ChatGPT is giving you.
Yeah, I think that is very important, right? Then it's the human judgment is as important as the AI execution. So I will also say that, like, for copy content that's generated by ChatGPT, I always review and refine the results to make sure that it's aligned with my strategy and that it makes sense for the clients before we even have the go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, we won't be replaced yet.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, yeah, yes. So you gotta say a thank yous. Yeah, Andrew. Then, right now, so we talked about like the different marketing channels. Do you actually use ChatGPT to support your final campaign execution?
Yes, and the way I do this is I ask ChatGPT for campaign execution tips. So the prompt I use is create a detailed checklist outlining the final steps and elements needed to launch my 4-week marketing campaign using the channels you recommended, include key milestones and important deadlines. And from this, I usually get a list of best practices, reminders, things to ensure that I do. Some of them are going to be relevant, some of them might not be relevant. And again, this is where your previous experience from marketing comes in, because you obviously have to judge the output, but it's a nice way to get a quick checklist versus you having to build a checklist on your own for campaign effectiveness.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you sync with milestones and deadline, because ChatGPT is super good with step-by-step approach. So it makes total sense to get this like this.
And is there any way for you to use ChatGPT to support things like campaign tracking in the matrix?
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of campaigns. After you've run the campaign, or as it's running, you're always curious, how is this performing? How does it compare to benchmarks? How does it compare to industry standards? So the prompt I use there to analyze the success of a campaign is list the key performance indicators I should focus on to measure the success of my 4-week marketing campaign, suggest the tools I should use to track the performance of the marketing channels that I'm using in my campaign. And with that, you will get great recommendations just for analyzing and tracking the success of your campaign. So now we're going to transition into selling with Jérémy. So Jérémy, what are the main stages of selling?
Yeah, so yeah, sales are a huge topic, and we have just a limited amount of time today. So I will focus on 3 main subtopics in sales, which are targeting, by that defining and finding your prospects. Second one would be outreach. I'm including warm outreach and cold outreach to just reach out to these prospects. And then the final step would be closing.
Jérémy, I love that breakdown, and I love how you kept it simple. So what's important to know before you start using AI tools for selling?
Yeah, so you said it before, you said it. You need to understand and master what you're doing before putting any automation or AI into your processes, because if you do a mistake by doing something manually, you will do it once and learn from it. If you do it with AI, you will replicate 100 times and you will have problems and you will be in trouble. So first thing, you need to master it. So if you follow a bit my content, you know that sales are about building relationships with your prospect. So here again, I have 3 steps. Targeting. So I don't want to extend too much on this topic, because it's basically the same logic as you do in marketing. And Audrey and you, Andrew, you talked about this quite a lot. I would be happy to develop this later. If you have any question, DM me. I would be happy to answer you. But what I want to say about targeting is just that you won't make any sales if you're not targeting the right people. Even if your product or service is the best in the world, if you're targeting the wrong people, you won't make any sales. That might sound stupid. But I receive enough bad DMs in LinkedIn to know that not everybody is doing the right targeting. You don't want to be the guy who is trying to sell me our training. You don't want to be that guy. That's a true story. So yeah, first step is do your research, basically, and you can use AI to help you with that, and I will develop it a bit later. But first step, know who you are targeting. Once you know who you are targeting, you want to present them your value proposition. So that's the second step, that's outreach. And if you did a good job, you are now pretty sure that 90% of your prospects have a pain point that you can help them solve. The sales based on that should be quite easy. So it might sound counterintuitive, but the best way to sell is actually not trying to sell. What you want is just create a conversation, and as you are a smart sales, you will drive this conversation and just ask a few questions that will enlighten the pain point that you are solving. And your new friend is so lucky to know you because you can help them to solve it. So that's the way I would recommend you to do outreach.
I have a question here for you, Jeremy. How would you create a conversation that is natural with your prospect? What would be a usual flow like for you?
Okay. I didn't plan to talk about this, but you're right. Let's dive in. So I will be simple again, and I will use 3 steps again. What you want to do, either if it's cold or warm outreach, you need 3 steps to start a conversation and be natural and casual. You need an icebreaker. So if it's a warm prospect, that should be easy because they know you. So you will easily find a reason to talk to them. If they are a cold prospect, that would be a bit harder for you, but you will have to make some research and find a good reason to talk to them. So that's step 1. Step 2 is why they will trust you. You have to show value right away to make them trust you, basically. So for this, I'm always thinking to provide a lead magnet. So as you targeted the pain points and you already prepared a solution, which is a lead magnet. So you can give it in the conversation. And the last step would be a call to action. So now that your prospect is trusting you, you can ask them if that makes sense to talk. I'm not a big fan in outreach to push directly a link, like it's a strong call to action. I'm more a team soft call to action, which is, for example, does that make sense to talk further or something like this? It's way smoother, I think, to do it like this.
I love it. Sliding into DMs in a really smooth fashion, Jeremy.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
Jeremy, I really like using the lead magnets as well because you're like leading with value. You're giving them something good first through your outreach
Absolutely.
versus asking for a meeting right away or asking for their time.
Yeah, exactly. And we receive a lot of them. We have to put yourself in the shoes of your prospect. We all receive a lot of DMs and a lot of first message that are sales pitch. And that's annoying. We don't want that. So don't be that guy. Target the right people and just be a natural human. Just open a conversation. And yeah, that would work best for you. And yeah, so the final step of what I was telling before is the closing part. And this closing part, that means you are in the call, you have done the call. And during the call, what you have to do is just reinforce the trust because they trust you enough to go in the call, but maybe they don't trust you enough to buy from you, especially if the high tickets offers, handle objections and negotiate.
Thank you for that breakdown, Jeremy. So then how do you use AI throughout the sales process?
Okay, so I will try to be quick about this because we are running out of time. I will go through the 3 steps again. So in targeting, what I like is to use ChatGPT to help me craft a good ICP. So I have some prompts that I would be happy to share, but one I like to use would be something like considering the intricacies of, like, you put your industry name, detail the advanced characteristics that should define an ideal customer profile for a product like, and you put your product description. So this will give you guidelines to create the ICP. Like you said, Audrey and Andrew, it won't create the perfect ICP right away, but it will help you as the expert to craft the ICP. So for the second step, which is outreach, I have a lot to say, but let me take the 3 steps that I just talked about with you, Audrey. So the first step in outreach would be icebreaker. So for that, I like to use a tool, AI tool, that's name is Human Linker. Basically, it's a Chrome extension that allows you to scan a LinkedIn profile and get information from this profile. And what's smart about this is that you can put your own information in the tool, and Human Linker will find a link, basically create an icebreaker for you between your information and the profile you are looking. So you will save a lot of time using this. I'm adding a tip here. Don't be in a hurry when it comes to sale. Like I said, it's about creating a relationship, and creating relationship takes time. To transform a cold prospect into a warm one, you will be able to multiply touching points and, for example, comment on their content, like their content. Try to show yourself to them before trying to outreach, before trying to send them a message. And also for that, Human Linker is helpful. You can use it for this. So yeah, the second step is giving value. So for this, I would only recommend to use ChatGPT to help you craft a super lead magnet. Same logic as you said, Audrey. You said, Andrew, if you feed ChatGPT with your own information, I like to think about differentiation, what makes you different from your competitors. Give that to ChatGPT, and based on that, you can create a good lead magnet for your prospects. And the final step would be CTAs. So like I said, I like soft CTAs, and you can just keep the conversation casual and ask if that makes sense to jump in a call. And for that, you don't really need AI. However, for the last part of my topic about sales, I would add in the closing part, you can use ChatGPT to be your sparkling partner. We say that like this. I like to do role play with it. So I have a prompt that I like. That would be, for example, as a potential buyer from the industry, raise nuanced objections related to your product, allowing me to practice and addressing them effectively. So what I like with that is that it will show you objections that you didn't thought about before, and you will be prepared enough to go into the call and handle it, basically. There's also a dedicated tool to this use case, for example, which is the Second Nature AI. I didn't try it personally, but I've seen the demo and it's pretty impressive. You can basically train your sales reps with the tool, and it's super impressive. And I will finish with a tool that I like, because you probably won't sell with only one call. Maybe even if you are super good in sales, most of the time you will need 2 or 3 calls, especially if your offer is expensive. And for this, a tool like Sibyl, which will take notes from your previous calls and save insights for you, and will feed your CRM from the calls. This is super helpful to prepare the next call, and don't forget about anything. And what's super good with Sibyl is that they can identify from the video and from the tone of voice signals that, for example, this guy during the call was bored when you talked about this and that, but he was super excited when you talk this and that. So you know that without being physically with the guys, and you can't see that, but Sibyl can with the video and the sound of voice, and you can get this information, which is super powerful to close the deal. Yeah.
Yeah, I would also like to chime in. Like, I've tried Civil actually just 2 months ago. I am a huge fan. You know
Yeah.
what's the best part? The best part is you can click the AI powered email follow up button, and the
That's
emails are
amazing.
pretty damn specific. So it's really very impressive. I didn't have to change much of the copy and the tone of voice and the content. So, very powerful tool. Please check it out.
Yeah, they have trained the model for sales goals, and it's super efficient.
Okay, thank you for that, Jeremy. I really like the mix of strategy, tactics, and then even the tools for how to get these steps done. I think it was an awesome advice.